Hello everyone, my name is 4IS and welcome to my channel. In this series, I'll be covering political, economic and revolutionary topics which are relevant to our time. I read the books so you don't have to. In a world where money rules the land, there is one critique that is left unspoken. Integrity leads to innovation. Innovation leads to inequity. Inequity leads to insanity. Join me as we explore the four eyes of capitalism. So let's jump right in. Scomo. Geez, where to start? You could say that he's lost people because of the polls. You could say he's lost people because of the failed marketing. It's fair to say on a number of occasions, people have wondered where the bloody hell is he? Now, these topics have been done to death, but one that doesn't get that much attention is the ethos behind his most punitive policies, the Indue Card and Robodebt. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Our story first starts in the 19th century, and with a little concept called liberalism. Now, liberalism isn't all that bad. It's the concept that gave us ideas such as equality, fraternity, and liberty. It's what you call classical liberalism. These are actually ideas promoted by this guy and this guy. In a sense, they're both liberals. Well, small L liberals at least. But things started to change in the 19th century with the concept of the social state. What the social state brought to the table was the linking of work, class, and morality. In this analysis, Michel Foucault states the poor were those who were simply lazy and those who sought work, people capable of working and those who were not, and so on. By reorganizing the problem around the pole of work, the operations sought to break down poverty in order to separate the real poor from the imposters and freeloaders. Essentially, the social state started the distinction between the real poor and the bludgers. Sound familiar, doesn't it? And this is unsurprising, because pauperism was becoming a popular term during this century. Pauperism, for those of you who don't know, is a state of extreme poverty. The paupers of 19th century society were definitely down in their luck during the Industrial Revolution. Now, this form of liberalism shied away from charity and caring for the poor, and saw them as equals. Well, equals in principle. You didn't see any of the factory owners giving away their spare property to the poor in a Survivor-esque competition of who can make the most capital. Oh no. This world is what writers like Charles Dickens were commenting on. It's the reason we have such famous quotes like, "If they would rather die, they'd better do it and decrease the surplus population." Scrooge despises the charity workers because there were men in this time that believed in the sanctity of the poor's equal legal status, regardless of whether the poor could put food on the table or not. The poor, according to liberals, had the ability to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and work hard if they so wished. They could elevate from poverty if they just worked that little bit harder. But this is where the social question comes in. Specifically, the social question as a phrase refers to the problem that is hanging over society and the discussions behind how to solve it. Liberals in the 19th century proclaimed that 1. Men were born into social status. 2. Men could work their way out of poverty. 3. A good work ethic is the path to good morals. And the conclusion? Work and good morals led to wealth and prosperity. Theorists such as Francois Ewald very freely admitted that inequality in civil society was a natural phenomenon. Inequalities are natural, inevitable, and irreducible. They constitute a component of the order of creation, which is an order of variety and diversity, as rewards and punishments for the merits and shortcomings of particulars. They are necessary for social progress. Finally, they are parts of providence, as wellsprings of social cohesion. They stand at the origin of the existence of societies. What Ewald is saying isn't bad within itself. People are born within a certain social status, and their work should be judged by its merits. But this version of 19th century liberals seems to misunderstand the social component of society. They had boxed themselves in. The bad pauper was integral to motivate and moralize to the poor. To intervene with their poorness would interfere with their right to work themselves out of that situation. It had nothing to do with a cheap workforce at all. Nope, never, not at all. But all jokes aside, this form of liberalism, resulting in mass pauperism, meant this was a huge social question to solve. Now, I want you to hold that thought as we wind the clock forward to Australia 2016. In 2016, the then Social Services Minister and Treasurer brought out a joint statement about a new technology that would track welfare benefits within the government agency of Centrelink. Through smarter technology, we can better manage our social welfare system to ensure that every dollar goes to those who need it most. To put it bluntly, this was brand new technology that would make sure the poor would pay up what was due. If they had picked up a new job and were not owed welfare benefits, they would simply have to pay it back. The new technology picked up 470,000 recipients that were deemed to owe the government undeserved welfare benefits. They had been overpaid because of inaccurately reported income from employers, according to the government. The government sent out letters informing the welfare recipients they had 21 days to file a response or be hit with a 10% recovery fee. The astonishing thing about these alleged welfare debts, recipients' debts were backdated up to 6 years. Terry Carney, who was a legal academic, was quoted, "Rather than using the recipient's actual income in the fortnights for which benefits had been paid, Centrelink calculated an average fortnightly income over a longer period, which often included fortnights they were in paid employment and not receiving Centrelink benefits." In 2020, a class action lawsuit concluded where $721 million was returned to recipients and over 2,000 people died due to the welfare scheme. Remember when I said the Treasurer and the Social Services Minister rolled out the scheme in 2016? Guess who was the Treasurer? This guy. I hope you can see the attempt to divide the good poor from the bad poor by the government. All those vulnerable people suffered just for some jewellery dues. Then there's the case of the Indue Card. Indue, for starters, is a private company who in 2019 rolled out a cashless debit card to welfare recipients. The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, made a statement that welfare is not an end in itself. It's a means to help people and support people to be stronger, not weaker. It's not unreasonable for the taxpayer to say, well, I'm happy to give you support, but I'm not going to have you spend it on drugs or gambling. The card meant that 20% of the benefit was accessible as cash and 80% prevented use on alcohol, gambling, or drugs. Bilal, the journalist reporting on this welfare system, even says the shake-up will also involve forcibly taking rent and utility bills out of the people's social security or family tax benefit payments to ensure they're up to date and don't become homeless. Again, we can see the distinction between the good poor and the bad poor. The costs of running the welfare card are approximately $3.2 billion, a figure that Indue and other contractors are happy to pocket. It sends a clear moral message. Pull your socks up and make some money on your own, or have the government dictate what you can or can't do. Work, morality, and class are interlinked. If you thought that was interesting, then like, share, and subscribe. And remember, keep thinking and keep learning. Goodbye till next time.